Damon Dash, the co-founder of Rockefeller Records, just filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. But here's the part most people are missing. The real story isn't bankruptcy. It's 19.1 million in unpaid taxes that he owes to the IRS. And here's the hard truth. Bankruptcy might not make that tax debt vanish. In today's video, I'm going to break down exactly why the IRS debt is different, how the system treats it, and whether someone like Dame Dash might qualify for relief through an offer in compromise or something called currently not collectible status. Now, let's get one thing clear. Bankruptcy does wipe out many kinds of debt. We're talking about credit cards, medical bills, even certain lawsuits. But tax debt is another animal. Some tax liabilities can actually survive a bankruptcy, especially when the amounts are large or recent or tied to penalties. And the IRS's tax lien against your property typically does survive a bankruptcy. So that means even if the tax debt itself is wiped out, the tax lien that the IRS has is still there, and they can actually still come after your property, not you, but your property, even after the bankruptcy, even if you get a discharge. So in Dame's case, his filing lists over 25 million in total debt, but nearly 20 million of that is tax debt. He claims he only has about $4,350 in assets. And we're talking about $100 in cash, a phone, two guns, and some personal items. He says his monthly income is literally zero. So while bankruptcy may shield him from creditors or Paul's lawsuits, Uncle Sam will probably still be standing there when the dust settles. Which brings us to the real question. What options would he have dealing with the IRS outside of bankruptcy? Before I dive into the specific of Dame Dash's tax situation, let me just say that I'm not a bankruptcy attorney. I don't do bankruptcies. I only handle tax cases before the IRS. I should also say that I don't have any firsthand knowledge of this particular case. My analysis here in this video is based only on publicly available information, but based on what's been reported publicly, Damon Dash will probably make a good candidate for an offer in compromise. Let's talk about why. An offer in compromise is basically a settlement with the IRS. You're going to offer to pay less than the full balance that you owe. And if the IRS accepts it, the rest of your debt is forgiven. But this isn't like some magic wand. You've got to qualify, and the rules can be kind of strict. The IRS is going to look at your ability to pay the tax debt. They're going to calculate your future income potential. They're also going to look at your equity and assets. And in that instance, they're trying to determine what could be liquidated, in other words, sold, to pay the taxes. And then finally, they're going to calculate something called your reasonable collection potential, or RCP. There's literally a formula that they use to calculate your monthly income and your net assets to determine what you can realistically pay. So, income. Dame Dash is reporting zero monthly income. In 2022, he says he only made about $5,000 for the entire year. That points to a very low ability to pay the tax debt that's actually due. In terms of assets, he says he has just a few $1,000s, nothing significant. His biggest asset, which was his 1/3 share of Rockefeller Records, was already auctioned off by the state of New York to cover taxes that were owed to the state. When it comes to expenses, he has 5 children. He has a fiance and probably high household costs. The number of dependents here matters because each of those dependents is going to reduce his collection potential in the eyes of the IRS. So on paper, that's going to make him a great candidate for an OIC. Now, on the other hand, the IRS might look at his lifestyle or whether he has hidden resources or assets, but based strictly off the filing, his RCP is close to zero, which is good for him in terms of getting out from under the tax debt. Now, would the IRS accept pennies on the dollar? Possibly, but with the liability of this size, they're going to scrutinize every detail. They might even argue that his name, his connections, and his future earning potential mean that he actually can pay more at a later time, even though the hard numbers on paper suggest that he cannot. Now, in addition to the offer and compromise, another option that's available to him is something called CNC, or currently not collectible status. This isn't forgiveness. It's a pause, a collections pause. The IRS here is saying, we agree that you can't afford to pay right now. We'll hold off collections, but interest and penalties are going to continue to grow. To qualify for CNC, you've got to show that you don't have any positive monthly income after your necessary and allowable living expenses, and you have no significant assets that could be seized. That is exactly what Dame Dash's bankruptcy filing shows. It shows that he has no income, it shows that he has no assets, and it shows that he has high monthly obligations. So if he's approved for CNC, the IRS would stop trying to levy his bank accounts or garnish his wages or seize his property. He technically would still owe the nearly $20 million in tax debt, but practically speaking, they might just never collect. If his financial situation doesn't change before the statute of limitations known as the CSID, collection statute expiration date, runs out. For most IRS debts, that CSID or collection statute expiration date is going to be 10 years from the date that the tax was assessed. So practically speaking, if he were placed in CNC, there's a good chance that he would never repay any of the $20 million tax debt. So let's play this out. Does Damon Dash qualify for an offer in compromise? Technically, yes. Based on what has been made publicly available, his collection potential is minimal and his tax debts are obviously very, very large. But with his name and his past business history, the IRS might push back, arguing that he has future earning power that he has not yet tapped, at least not to his full potential. They could deny an offer if they believe he's underreporting or if he's capable of earning more income than he's currently earning. CNC is probably a more realistic short-term bet. With no income and almost no assets, he'd likely qualify. But remember, CNC is just a timeout. It's a temporary pause in the IRS's collection situation. The IRS will check back every couple years. If he lands a new business deal, starts producing movies, or monetizes his brand in a major way, they're going to want their cut. The Dame Dash case is extreme. 19.1 million in tax debt is beyond, way beyond what most of us can ever imagine owing. But the principles apply whether you owe 19 million or 19,000. Bankruptcy doesn't necessarily erase all tax debt. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But the tax lien itself is still going to be there. So don't necessarily count on it as a solution to all your problems. If you can't pay, you want to make sure you stay in good communications with the IRS. Options like OIC and CNC do exist, but you have to ask for them and prove your case. And then finally, your lifestyle matters. The IRS will measure what you spend versus what you report. If you're living, big time while claiming zero income, they're going to shut down your request and deny it. So Dame Dash's filing is a cautionary tale. The IRS will chase you no matter how famous you are. And probably the more famous you are, the more they're going to chase you. So what do you think? Should the IRS accept an offer in compromise from Damon Dash, or should they keep pressing him for the full 19.1 million? The man is buried under a mountain of tax debt with no obvious way of repaying it. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know what you think. Listen, speaking of tax debt, I want you to know that there are special programs in place to help you get a fresh start. No two cases are exactly alike. So how do you know how much you can settle for? If you want to see which of the tax relief programs you qualify for, I want you to go over to www.levyking.com. Drop your information to find out what you qualify for. You can also give me a call at 1-877-Levy King. That number again is 1-877-538-9546. That's it for today, guys. Check out my next video. It should be loading right now.
1-877